Hey everybody, this is Zachary Jeans. Let's keep walking through the Bible. So today is day 343, episode 343, and we are walking through the Bible. We are currently in Genesis. We're going to be picking up chapters 31 and 32 today, and I appreciate you coming along. So as we go through the Bible, we aren't going to hit everything right. I'm going to make mistakes. I appreciate you giving me the benefit of the doubt. Either I'm misspeaking, I'm wrong, or I just have forgotten something. So the biggest part of this is that we're going through it together. We're learning. I'm in process. There are things that I have forgotten that I learned a couple decades ago when I became a believer that just, they've slipped my mind. Or there are things that I know today that I didn't know then. And here's the thing. I'm trying to be as faithful with the word as I can. And where I make error, hopefully you get it right. And where you've made an error, and maybe I'm correcting, and I'm doing you a service. So, hey, again, benefit of the doubt. Let's love one another as we walk through the word. So, why don't we stop? Why don't we pray? And we'll get in the word. Lord, I love you. God, forgive me for not taking off my hat right now. I love you. I know that you're both blessed by that, and you also don't need me to, because you're the God of heaven and earth, and you hear us through your blood, Jesus. It's through your blood and your sacrifice that you fulfill all the laws and all the duties, and we come to you through that. I come to you through that. God, I sense that there's a lot of people that don't have peace today. And I pray, God, that you would give us your peace. It surpasses all comprehension, all understanding, Lord. That comes in you, Jesus. God, I pray, God, that you'd open up your word to me and to them. And it's in your name we pray, Jesus. Please bless your word as it goes out. Amen. All right. A little drink of coffee there. Yep. So we are opening up chapter 30 here. And why don't we do that? Verse 1. So when Jacob, or no, wait a minute. No. I'm sorry. Chapter 31. 31 and 32. Yes. Chapter 31. Now, because we already read about, Jacob having to recreate a whole new flock because Laban had taken all the ones that they had agreed were going to be his, he took, which should have violated the contract right there, but whatever. So chapter 31, verse 1. Now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's. Weird, right? Because Laban had taken all of the spotted and mottled and black sheep right when they made the agreement, and took them 3 days journey, right? And then so Jacob had to rebuild this whole flock. And here's Laban's servant saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what was our father's he has gained all this wealth. Yeah. And Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him with favor as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. Now, mind you, in all of this, Jacob doesn't bail based on his observation of the situation. Jacob doesn't make a business decision about when and where to go until the Lord directs him. We've said before, it's okay to make decisions in the freedom of God's grace, right? It seemed good for them to do, and they did it. That's the apostles. Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke and Acts because it seemed good to do. You don't see even Jesus on earth, granted he's the Lord, but it seemed good for him to go to this city or that city. He didn't necessarily get like a father out of the heavens shouting down, hey, Jesus, go to this city, go to that city. But he also knew when the Lord allowed power to flow through him. He saw in this specific situation when and where to help. Remember the woman at the well. Reading God's will, it's a multifaceted thing. And we could get into that. They're kind of like categories, which I've already kind of alluded to. But here, Jacob hears from the Lord. The Lord speaks to him, gives him a clear direction. He is doing as he ought to do where he is, right? And then the Lord says, hey, go. And so he has a decision to make. And you'd say, what decision? When the Lord speaks, I mean, is that you, Lord? That's very common, right? And Jacob hears, pick up and head on out. Go to the land where, you're from. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not permit him to harm me. If he said the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he said the striped shall be your wages, then the flock that bore striped shall, then the flock bore striped. Thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. In the breeding season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream that the goats had mated with the flock that were striped and spotted and mottled. And the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. And he said, lift up your eyes and see, all the goats that mate with the flock are striped, spotted, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I'm the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now arise, go out from this land and return to the land of your kindred. So Jacob recounts the dream, the direction, which is summed up in, return to the land of your fathers and your kindred, and I will be with you. Okay. So then Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Answer, no. Answer, no. Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? Answer, yeah. For he has sold us, and he has indeed devoured our money. All the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. Isn't it great? Even though this is like a long time ago, and, we could go into a lot about culture and marriage and times and, get into inheritance and how does this transfer between Laban and the daughters, and didn't Laban already agree to this? I think the important point is their marriage was one where they're unified. Jacob went to him, said, look, this is what went down with your dad. I've honored God. I've honored the contract with him. He didn't honor the contract with me. God's telling me to go back home. Are you going to come? And they answer, we don't have an inheritance with our dad anymore. He went sideways with us. We're united to you. We're married to you. We're going to go with you. And I love this last line. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. And that's a godly marriage. That's not to say that if God's telling the husband, or let me put it this way. If in a marriage, the husband is saying God's telling him to do something that doesn't honor God, and I'm not talking about a difference of opinion about the color of the carpet or a couch or something. This isn't like these small things in life. If the marriage has leadership in the husband and the wife is willing to go and trust that God is leading the husband and is then leading the family, that's the point here. Is their trust. So I'm a husband, I have a wife, my wife trusts me, I make mistakes, and yet she's willing to abide with those mistakes because she knows in general, I submit myself to the Lord and submit our marriage and our family to the Lord. And as a result, I believe the Lord, despite my errors, honors our marriage and honors that relationship and protects and guides us nonetheless, right? I love this line though at the end there, and I'll just say it one more time. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. So Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels. He drove away all his livestock, all his property that he had gained, the livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Paddan Aram, to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. Yikes. And Jacob tricked Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he intended to flee. He fled with all that he had and arose and crossed the Euphrates and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. When it was told to Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsman with him and pursued him for 7 days and followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." And Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen pitched tents in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have tricked me and driven away my daughters like captives of the sword?" It's a little disingenuous, right? It's not actually what went down. "Why did you flee secretly and trick me and not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with mirth and songs, with tambourine and lyre?" Again, probably not, right? We know Laban by now. "Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your fathers spoke to me last night, saying, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' And now you have gone away, because you have longed greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of your kinsmen's point out what I have that is yours and take it." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them, those gods, little idols. So this is an interesting quandary here. Rachel, the one who he loved the most or found the most attractive, right? The younger daughter, who he ended up serving Laban for 14 years plus, right? But 14 years to gain her hand in marriage, is the one who stole the household gods. And if Laban were to have found them, by Jacob's own words, she would have been killed. But as we're going to see, he doesn't find them. It's also interesting that Jacob essentially was correct about Laban. Laban would not have given the daughters away, even though he had earned them. He would not have allowed him to leave, even though he had every right to. This all goes back to, remember when Rebecca left the home with relatively little issue. But you could tell that Laban and his mom didn't want her to leave and tried to kind of finagle something there at the end. Laban, on this second issue opportunity, has spent decades now keeping Jacob, binding him in agreements, trying to snare him. And the Lord comes to him in dreams, says, don't say either good nor bad. I remember I had an issue with somebody once before, and they're a believer. And I think that they could have done, I could have done better in this situation, but I don't know that they did the best that they could have. And I remember the Lord came to me and told me in a dream to neither speak good nor bad concerning these people. And this came to me, and there were 2 times when, in one case, somebody came to me and asked me for advice, whether to participate in something that they were involved in. And my gut was to tell them, no, don't do that. Not that they're evil people or anything. They love the Lord, but the Lord had just told me, say neither good nor bad. And I had to split hairs with the person who was asking me for counsel. I couldn't give a full-throated endorsement, and I couldn't tell them not to. And they picked up on that. But I didn't. I honored what the Lord told me in that dream. Also, it was interesting. Years and years later, I had an interesting encounter, an unexpected encounter, and that dream came back to me. Very similar, speaking neither good nor bad. And so it's interesting how we navigated that situation. I do believe God speaks to us. And I do believe that this word, which he gave, has come many times to people. And sometimes we're meant to give a ringing endorsement of somebody. And sometimes we're meant to speak neither good nor ill. And I think that that is enough. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, into the tent of the 2 female servants. Didn't find him. So, Zilpah and Bilhah, couldn't find him there. Now Rachel had taken the household gods, put him in the camel's saddle, and sat on him. Laban felt all about the tent. He didn't find him. And she said to her father, let not my Lord be angry that I can't rise before you. For the way of woman is upon me, or the way of women is upon me. She's having her period. So he searched about, didn't find the household gods. Then Jacob became angry and berated Laban. Jacob said to Laban, what is my offense? What's my sin that you have hotly pursued me? For you fell through all my goods. What have you found of all your household goods? Set it before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us. These 20 years I've been with you, your ewes, your female goats, they haven't miscarried. And I have not eaten the rams of your flock. What was torn by wild beasts, I didn't bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. From my hand, you have required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. By day, the heat consumed me, the cold by night. My sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I've been with you in your house. I've served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, 6 years for your flock. You've charged me my wages 10 times. You've changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God saw my affliction and labor in my hands and rebuked you last night. So, I think notably, in the midst of all this, right, Jacob turns anger against Laban, even though actually Laban's in the right here, because Rachel had stolen the household gods. But he points out the truth. It's like, you changed my ways just 10 times. Who knows if that's just like a phrase, like, you change the terms of our agreement all the time. And he rightly points out that, yeah, if it wasn't for the fear, if it wasn't for God, I'd be leaving without anything. Then Laban answered and said to Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, children are my children, flocks are my flocks. All that you see is mine. But what can I do this day for these daughters, for these children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I. Let it be a witness between you and me. So Jacob took a stone, set it up as a pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. So he took stones, made a heap. They ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jager Sahu Saha Dutha. But Jacob called it Galid. And in Aramaic, it's called heap of witness. And in Hebrew, it's called the heap of witness. So two phrasings there by two different languages. Laban said, the heap is a witness between you and me today. Therefore, he named it Gilead and Mizpah. For he said, the Lord watch between you and me when we are out of one another's sight. If you oppress my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters, although no one is with us, see, God is witness between you and me. Then Laban said to Jacob, this heap and pillar, which I have set between you and I, this heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me to do harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, that's Terah, judge between us. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac, and Jacob offered a sacrifice in the hill country and called his kinsmen to eat bread. They ate bread, spent the night in the hill country. Early in the morning, Laban arose and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned home. Not a great departure, but better than a murder, better than some sort of horrible, devastating fight. It's better that God didn't have to wipe Laban out, because I'm pretty sure had he struck it at Jacob, I don't think he would have fared well. Jacob went on his way. The angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's camp. So he called the name of the place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, instructing them, thus you shall say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned in the land with Laban, and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys. I almost said dachshund. I have oxen and dachshund. No, I have oxen and donkeys, flocks, male servants, female servants. I sent to tell my Lord in order that I may find favor in your sight. 20 years goes by. Is Esau still plotting to kill him, right? He knows how he left. He had to flee because he tricked him, remember? And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. You bet he was. He divided the people who were with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two camps, thinking, if Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. I am not worthy of the least of all these deeds of steadfast love and the faith, all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered or for a multitude. For he stayed there that night, and from what he had with him, he took a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 10 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. Then he handed over to his servants every drove by itself, and said to the servants, pass on ahead of me, put a space between drove and drove. He instructed the first, when Esau my brother meets you and asks you, to whom do these belong? To whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you? Then you shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are presents sent to my lord Esau. And moreover, he is behind us. He likewise instructed the second and the third, and all who follow the droves. You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me. And afterward I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on ahead of him, and he himself stayed that night in the camp. So he sends out everything he owns before him, and he puts it in stagings, right? Different layers. And the idea is simple, that at each stage, as he receives all that Jacob has, he will find favor in the eyes of Esau. That Esau's wrath will be, turned away. And it's not an unfair thought. When he left, he freaked out. I mean, he was like gonna be killed by Esau. He's just waiting for Isaac to die, and then Esau is gonna come kill Jacob, right? Rebecca says, hey, you got to get on up out of here. So he gets Isaac's approval to head on out of town and go find a wife. Now, he's been gone a long time, 20 years. And is Esau still ticked off? Is Esau still looking to kill him? Well, he's coming with 400 men, and he doesn't send a message ahead, so he doesn't know. So he sends out these gifts, puts everything between him and there, and he's appealing to the Lord. He's like, Lord, you told me to come back. You told me. And I'm freaked out. And, there's so many times in life where God says to go somewhere and it looks scary. I remember when I went into Bangladesh back in, 2004, almost 20 years ago. And I was going into a country that itself was having massive, it was in the throes of massive political unrest. They were also under the worst floods, and this is a country that floods every year. The worst floods in 30 years. Millions of people have been displaced along the river. And I was going in because the Lord said, hey, I want you to go there. I was going. And I was pleading with the Lord. Lord, you told me to come here. God sent me in. I met some great people, and God got me out. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't intense or scary, or that I wasn't pleading with the Lord. Lord, you told me. And the Lord was like, yeah, I told you. Why are you afraid? But Jacob's freaked out. So this wrestling that he's going to write about here, that Moses is writing about at the birth of Israel's name, man, I don't know. If God sends you to go do something that's out of your comfort zone, there is this wrestling. The same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children. Mind you, this is before Benjamin's born. And crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day has broken." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew. Israel means he strives with God, or God strives. And Peniel means the face of God. I love that line there. "Please tell me your name. Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. For Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I've seen the face of God. For I've seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. Don't you wonder, you're like, well, why did God show up and wrestle with him? What was that, Jesus? If this is the pre-incarnate Christ, right? Before Christ comes, and his angel shows up a number of times, and here he shows up as a man and wrestles with Jacob. And was it common that people would just wrestle for the heck of it? You know, like, I imagine so. I mean, I wrestled in high school and coached a little bit afterwards. And wrestling is so great. It's just you and the other person. It's not you and a group. Although occasionally we would do a big wrestling match where you had to like see who could stay in the circle, the little wrestling center circle. And whoever's last would win. And I'd always last to like the last 2 or 3 people. I was little and I was strong and I would hold on, and I also wasn't a threat. So people would often wrestle all the threats off the mat first and then deal with the biggest last. So it was usually me, the heavyweight, and somebody, 1 or 2 other guys that were like really strong. And I was really good at holding on, but anyway, but normally it's just you and 1 other person, right? And they're equally weighted. And here Jacob wrestled and gave the Lord in his human form every bit that the Lord chose to handle. I say chose because we know that the Lord can do whatever the Lord wants to do. And he strove with him all night. He wrestled with him over this great emotional and fearful conflict that he had. And through the night he wrestled. I remember one time the Lord told me to go give a word to somebody who was a relatively famous preacher. And consequently, or just as a part of it, he gave this word to me very clearly after having seen the Passion of the Christ. And it was so abundantly clear to me that I was supposed to go, like without a doubt, like one of those moments where it's like the Lord's like, go do this. I'm like, yikes, I don't even know how to do this. This is before cell phones for the most part. I mean, I think cell phones were around, but not like, this is pre-iPhone, smartphone. So I and a buddy who was willing to go with me drove, and we drove 2 days across country, slept for 2 hours, got there, Didn't know who to talk to. Showed up at the church. And they were like, yeah, he's not around right now. But, you know, if God's telling you to come, then you need to follow that. Okay. Go to the service. This is like Easter weekend. Nope, he's not at this campus. He's at this other campus. Okay. Go to that campus. Sit through service up front. Wait. And then finally have a chance to meet him and said, hey, you know, Lord gave me a word. And he was struck by it. He's like, wow, well, do you want to have lunch? You want to meet afterwards? I'm like, no. Because the Lord is very clear. This is what you're supposed to do. But I'll tell you, the night before I actually met him, we stayed the night at a campground. And I can't even tell you the spiritual attack I was under. The wrestling, the battling, the fear. Just unbelievable. Like, almost like waves of darkness attacking me non-stop. Like, just non-stop. All night long the night before. Unbelievable. And, but by God's grace, God gave me the word. And it's so silly. It was a word which publicly this pastor had already received in the past. And God just told me to tell him that word again. This is a scripture. Didn't ask me to interpret it. Didn't ask me to give anything more than that. Just said, give him that word. And to be faithful with that. And I imagine it was more for me than him. I'm sure God used it in that person's life. Because God doesn't waste anything, right? But God had me wrestle through this step of faith. So whenever God gives you a step of faith to go somewhere, to do something, to say something, of course you have to weigh that out and make sure you know it's from the Lord. But where God guides, there's always going to be this wrestling, and there's going to be this challenge, and it's going to seem a little bit scary, and you're going to have to talk to the Lord like Jacob did. Like, Lord, you sent me this way. God. And as we'll see, the Lord does bless Jacob. We'll see tomorrow. God blesses Jacob. So anyway, hey, if you're wrestling through something, keep wrestling. Work it out by faith. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. You're not alone. You're not alone. All right. God bless you. Keep walking. Bye.